All right, it's an extremely windy day today. I don't know if I'm going to post this video, however, I'm going to try to make do. I got a lot of positive reviews about the last video. You guys appear to enjoy my rambling, so I'm going to ramble some more today. I shot a local this Sunday. Um, didn't do as hot, all right, but there was a lot of nuances, a lot of variables in this match than there was in previous matches, okay? As you can see, I got a new belt set up. If you watch my match footage, I was running this setup for that match, okay? It's a double alpha links belt, competition pouches behind the hip, holster behind the hip. I'm getting a competition holster for this belt. Unfortunately, the new steel frame doesn't lock the ALS holster. The polymer ones do, but not this one. It is what it is. Um, but also in IPSC, you can't run weapon-mounted lights. So I decided to shoot this local without my weapon-mounted light for the first time. For the beginning of my shooting journey till now, I've only shot pistols with a Surefire X300 on the front. That's how I carry. It's what I carry for duty. So I only shoot pistols with lights. One, it looks cool. Two, I like it. Three, that's just what I did, right? So shooting this pistol without a weapon-mounted light on the front, okay, there's no more weight here, but it also makes the gun lighter than I would have imagined, right? My initial impression was it's going to be the same. What you have on the gun doesn't really matter, you just shoot, use your vision, blah, 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 all that good stuff. Essentially what happened is I started dragging off the targets very, very badly. I was getting deltas oftentimes I'll post a video of it. But on the recent classifier that I shot, 2502, 2504, I forget which one it is, but it's paper, steel, steel, paper, paper. You run over, paper, steel, steel, paper, paper. I got 3 deltas on that. My time was smoking, but the 3 deltas cost me a GM run. And it's because I was dragging off targets far too soon, and I didn't think it was because of how light this pistol is now. Right? As I'm shooting it, I'm waiting for it to return without the weight on the front of the muzzle. It's not returning as quickly, so I'm leaving too early. So, with that being said, I didn't think it was important to try to train with this pistol prior to the match. I just thought it was going to be the same. So it just goes to show that whatever equipment you do have, whether it's new, different, you tweak something, whatever the case may be, you need to get the applicable reps in. So that way what's unfamiliar becomes familiar and you can perform at a high level with it, right? That's what I'm going to do here today. I'm going to work on transitions, and because I'm working on transitions and how to do them, I thought I'd share that with you, right? So I have a pretty simple setup here. My targets are folding in half, which kind of sucks, but I'm just going to make do. Kind of dive into each component of a transition. The 2 main important components for me are target entries and target exits, right? How soon you leave a target and how soon you can get onto the target and start shooting alphas. I'm going to break it up like you do with working out, right? Like you have a chest and back day, shoulders and abs day, or an arm day. You want to treat your training the same way, right? So I'm going to do short little blocks of transitions, right? The first one's going to be a bump transition. I'm just going to fire 1 round, get off the target as soon as possible, and basically maintain the alpha. As soon as I press that trigger, as soon as that trigger breaks, I'm off of the target. I'm not transitioning to another target. I'm just going to bump off of that target as immediately as I can, right? There's 2 forms of transitions. One is a bad one is a good one. A bad transition would look like this, all right? I have my gun pointed at you, or not you, but the target, or whatever the case may be. Well, it's an air gun. If I shoot 2 rounds, 1, 2, and I let that dot settle on that target before I transition, I'm losing time, right? What I essentially want to happen is, as the gun recoils on that second shot, when the gun recoils, I'm transitioning mid-recoil, right? It should be a bang, bang, and over, okay? And that's essentially where the bump is going to come from. I'm going to go bang, and I'm going to go immediately over to the next target. Transitions are what I think are the most important, what saves you the most time. So I'll go over how I do that. I'll throw my hat cam on again. so you can see how I perform the bump transition and what success looks like for me. And I'll show you what a bump looks like, okay? Stand by. All right, I'm just getting off the target, Not leaving too soon, not leaving too late, maintaining the alpha. That's essentially what a bump is. I'm bumping, I'm not letting the gun return on the target. Because I'm not letting the gun return on the target, I'm therefore saving time, right? Maintaining the alpha, that's good with me, right? I don't want to spend too much time on that. All right, like I said, I didn't want to spend too much time on that, on performing a bump transition. It's just making sure that I'm not leaving too soon, right? But how do you ensure that you're not leaving too soon? You do 2 rounds, right? Because every target you're gonna shoot, unless it's like one of those weird stages, you're gonna shoot 2 rounds. So let's go 2 rounds on the left target, and I'm gonna bump off of it, and I'm still not going to engage another target, right? So I'll go for the draw from this one, because when you start to induce variables, the task at hand starts to fall by the wayside because you're not thinking about it because of the new variables you're introducing, right? So I'm gonna go off the draw, shoot 2 rounds and do a bump, okay? And I'll just index on this target for good measure. Stand by. Okay. The bump was good. Let's go again. Okay. The bump wasn't too good. I kind of pushed the gun left before I transitioned. Let's do it again. Good bump. One more time. Good bump. And then, like I said, I pushed the gun left on my second string before I transitioned, which is no bueno, so I corrected it, stayed within the alpha like I wanted, okay? I'm gonna try to demonstrate what I see more times than not from shooters, where they don't prioritize their transitions, but they prioritize their splits instead. I'm gonna try to do it incorrectly first, where splits are the focused, the transitions aren't, and then give you the times for those, and then I'm gonna show you what a proper transition looks like when the splits are not as fast, okay? And I'll still probably net more time even though my splits were slower, okay? I'll do that once or twice, probably just once. All right, so this is gonna be fast splits, slow transitions, or improper transitions, I should say. Stand by. All right, 372. Okay. I didn't really split the first target too fast. First target was split at 29, 0.95 transition, 19 split, 0.82 transition, 18 split. Okay. Held accountable for the most part. Now I'm gonna do it the right way and see how much time I save. Total time for this one was 372. I'm gonna transition the right way now. .314. Okay. My splits weren't that fast. They were 0.25, 0.58 transition, so I saved about 0.3, 0.4 seconds there. 0.3 split, 0.54 transition again, a 0.23 split, right? So again, just alone in that demonstration, okay, when I did the improper transitions, I didn't utilize the bump. The total time for that was 372. By shooting moderate splits and properly transitioning, I saved 0.6 seconds and my total time was 3.14. Right? you're transitioning across 16 different targets in a single stage, and you're saving 0.4 seconds on each transition on the other guy. You think about that, 16 times 0.4, it's a large amount of time you're saving from one stage, and now you multiply that across a 12-stage major or an 18-stage major, whatever the case may be, right? Transitions are important. Those should be fast. The splits, however, don't need to be as fast as you think, okay? So now I'm going to go into target entries and how I train them. All right, target entries, okay? The way I do target entries is I'm gonna start indexed on this target, and then when the buzzer goes, I'm gonna lead with my eyes, have the gun follow, and I essentially want to start prepping my trigger as my red dot passes that left alpha line. All right, right where the Charlie and the alpha is. As my dot is crossing across that line, I want to start pulling my trigger, okay? So let's do some entries, and obviously you'd work left to right, right to left, but for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just doing left to right. It's too windy. I'm sure you guys can't hear me too well, so start indexed. 0.62, try it again. Good alpha hit, 0.62, try it again. Low Charlie there, 0.56. I pushed the gun a little too much. Okay, alpha there again, stand by. Boom. All right, so I get the concept of entering, okay? Now you can push this and push this and push this and see where the wheels start to fall off, and that's how you gain faster and faster transitions, okay? So I'm gonna try to push it a little bit. Stand by. I mic'd the target completely, right? So 0.46, let me back off just a touch. I wanna get on paper at least. 0.52, I'm still in there. That was really quick, 0.50, still in the alpha. I missed again, 0.46. So 0.46 seems to be my breaking point. Let's see if I get a 0.48 transition. I'm feeling some tension built up. All right, some tension in my shoulders, some tension in my body, whipping the gun around. I'm pushing the gun a little bit more. There you go. 0.46 this time I got on paper. All right, it's a Charlie. All right, I don't like that, so it doesn't count. You want to repeat what's successful, but then you want to find where your even middle ground is. Okay, let's try it again. That was a 0.45 transition, dead center in the alpha. I'm gonna try it again. .39 alpha again. Wait, I guess I'm just really good at this. I don't know. I'm getting lucky possibly. I know I'm getting lucky because I'm not seeing much, but if I'm not seeing much, that doesn't mean it's repeatable, right? So back to a repeatable standard. 0.49, 0.47, that was a Charlie. 0.48, another Charlie. I'm not finding my spot fast enough. There it is, found my spot, 0.55. Charlie, 0.49, pushed it right. 0.51. So that's two components of the transitions that you guys can work on, all right? It's a very low round count kind of ordeal, but it's very useful, right? Again, you're putting these two components and you're isolating them on their own, all right? So if you want a strong bench, sometimes you need to work on your triceps alone, right? So I'm isolating these components so that way when they come together, they're one cohesive ability. All right? If I track the dot over, try to be target focused at the same time, you're going to be extremely slow, extremely behind the curve. Okay? So you want your eyes to lead and then your gun to follow, all right? You want to have that spot picked out before your gun arrives. So as your dot's coming in, all you're doing is waiting for that dot to appear and giving you permission to shoot. So now I'm going to kind of combine the two, right? I'm going to go 1 round on this target. Well, I'll do 2 and 2. All right, I'll go 2 rounds on this target, bump transition off, 2 rounds on this target. All right, that's kind of combining the two components of a target exit and a target entry together, okay? So I'm gonna do 2 rounds and then 1, okay? Because you're gonna be shooting 2 rounds and exiting onto a target. I'll do 2 rounds and 1, see what that looks like. Do it off the draw. Okay, 192, 131. 21.41 transition. Try it again. Now over transition to touch here. Stand by. .42. And now my bump, I'm pushing the gun left again as I'm trying to transition off. All right. So when I start to add these components, these different variables into my trigger press or into my drill that I'm doing, it starts to, my brain can't focus on the task at hand, right? Which is the bump and the entry. So I'm losing focus on the bump. Stand by. Still losing focus on that bump. I'm pushing the gun left as I'm trying to transition off, which is not a good thing. Stand by. Didn't pick the right spot, but the bump was good. Stand by. Entry's getting bad. All right. You want to combine all this stuff together to see where the wheels fall off. Stand by. There you go. That was clean. So as you can see, I'm not successful in my attempts to make this consistent, correct? So now what I do is I'd hammer this. I continue working this until I get a consistent result, until I figure that out. And once I can get consistent, then I can push. And then I can explore some more. But I have to get consistent first because I need to know my baseline, correct? Being consistent is way more important than being fast at all times, right? If you're fast and you're a super speedy guy and you can throw 15 splits and transition the gun really aggressively, but your scores always suck, you always mic a target, it doesn't really matter much, right? So build upon that consistency. Once you know your baseline, then go into exploring some more, right? You always know what your baseline is and what you're capable of, so you can perform at that level when it matters, okay? Once you know where that is, then you can start pushing, okay? Again, I can't be half in 2 spaces, so I'm going to get back to training some more. That's all I have. If you liked what you've seen or heard or whatever the case may be, like, comment, do what you got to do. Let me know in the comments. That's all I got. Try to get some training in with this windy day, all right? Goodbye. Take care. Take it easy.